Yeah, my name is Stefan Omdal. I'm going to talk about how to administer NAV 7 with Windows PowerShell. And the talk here is kind of for people who are not into PowerShell and working with PowerShell on a daily basis. If you are, then you can probably go away for 50 minutes and come back and see the last slides about NAV and see the NAV specific talk. But right now I'm going to introduce PowerShell. And I would like to see if somebody's actually experts in PowerShell and using PowerShell on a daily basis. Do we have any of those? No? Okay. Yeah, there's one there. So you're actually in the right talk here. Going to talk a little bit about PowerShell. Well, PowerShell V1 version 1 shipped with Exchange in 2006, in fall 2006. And there was kind of a need for Exchange team to rewrite all their VB scripts. They had a lot of VB scripts to handle everything. All the administrative tasks were handled in VB script and other script languages, and it was kind of a messy thing that grew over time and very hard to maintain, and they needed something new, and some other teams invented this PowerShell and got their heads together and started to use it, and Exchange server was an early adapter, and therefore they shipped together with Exchange in 2006. And then again, version 1 shipped together with Vista and 2008 server in 2007. And that was kind of, well, it shipped together with the product, but it was also something you could download for the rest of the platform. So if you're running XP, you could download version 1, and you actually got it in Windows Update. And that's how it all started. People tried to use it. People tried to change the behavior of writing everything in whatever scripting languages they had, and start to utilize PowerShell. But it's probably pretty complicated to see where it's all going. But when Windows 7 shipped in 2008 or 2, a newer version of PowerShell came along, and that's the version 2, of course. That version contains a lot of new stuff. Basically, it's PowerShell version 1, but a lot of new stuff. And one of the great features was remoting. So whatever you are going to write on some arbitrary machine somewhere could be executed like anywhere. You had your shell, and that shell is just for doing the day-to-day task or creating these small functions, small units. Everything can be created there. But once it's created, it can basically execute everywhere, and PowerShell takes care of that. So that's pretty cool. So what is Windows PowerShell? Well, Windows is all about objects. There's objects everywhere, and you need to learn Windows. Then you need to learn objects. All the different kind of things you can manage and administer are bound to objects. And traditional shells are about text. So if you have the normal kind of bat shell or CMD shell, it's just about text and parsing text strings forth and back, and maybe you can extend it to some VB script or some other scripting languages that can kind of create a COM object that can suddenly do something, and you have an object. But Windows PowerShell is basically everything that is usable in Windows. It's interactive, like you normally have a shell where you can type something and you get a reply. You would expect a reply. It's composable. Well, if you have small functions or small units, you can kind of glue them together. Here I have a function that is formatting the hard drive, and here I have another unit that is putting stuff on the new hard drive, and maybe a third unit that is configuring it. Then I have these 3 units I can compose into like one function or one larger unit, and it'll be able to maybe do a clean machine for me. And it's programmatic. Well, PowerShell is a language. It's very .NET aware. Everything you can do in .NET can basically be done in PowerShell. But it's also Windows aware. It's also system aware. and then it's very production oriented. And what I mean by that is that, well, you can start up. You don't really need to be a programmer, a developer or something to start up PowerShell and start to program. You can just play around with it, see what it takes you, get the help, maybe read a book and stuff like that. But you can very easily get very productive inside PowerShell. I'll come back to that. In Microsoft, we have something called the Common Engineering Criteria. And that means when we're going to ship a product, we have a bunch of criteria that we need to pass, kind of rule set, and one of them is, well, you need to, if you're going to ship a product at Microsoft, you need to supply PowerShell functional units, and these units are called commandlets. So commandlets in PowerShell are just something that can be executed to run a task. If you, for instance, with Exchange Server, they were the first adapter. If you want to create a new mailbox for Exchange Server, previously you took a gigantic script and you executed it and probably took like forever. And now with PowerShell, they created this little commandlet that is named new mailbox. New mailbox took a couple of arguments and it basically did everything the previous script did. And all the, I mean, most of the products at Microsoft actually have to ship these commandlets. Maybe not to a great extent for everybody because, well, we are busy, we are running out of time, we don't really have the schedule right now, but so it could easily start up with a little subset of whatever commandlets we have and then grow and evolve into maybe very large management systems. But in the end, all the feedback we have had so far on different PowerShell commandlets have been very positive. And we also have NAV here because we are talking 7. And for 7 we have a couple of commandlets that is going to make it easier for you guys to deal with administration. In the first version of PowerShell version 1.0, it's the only way was to use .NET. I mean, you need to learn how to program C or C# or VB to create these commandlets. There was some other assemblies, .NET assemblies in the .NET framework that came along with PowerShell, and you need to kind of utilize that one, and then you're off creating these commandlets. In version 2, you can actually both do it in .NET, and you can also do it in PowerShell. So you can use the scripting language to create new tasks or new commandlets. Makes it a lot easier to actually do it. So that's nice. Besides remoting, which was also a version 2 feature. Here I have a little graph of actually people downloading or users downloading Windows PowerShell 2.0. Should remember that 2.0 comes along with 2008 Server R2 and Windows 7. So these people do not need to actually download it. It's there. It's on per default. So this is people running older versions of the OS that needs to download the Windows Management Framework that contains remoting feature and Windows PowerShell. And you can see it's more than 5 million successful downloads here recently. So people are actually using it, getting to learn it, and maybe there's some need to unify stuff, and that's also one of the benefits of using PowerShell. So why do we want to use this, and why do I want to encourage you guys to also use PowerShell? Well, it is basically to avoid, as I write here, avoid learning multiple technologies like COM, WMI, web services, etc. And you don't need to understand all the low-level details when you want to administer something, because it's very hard. I don't know if you're familiar with WMI. Basically, WMI is used to manage Windows, right? It's kind of in the name, but it's very complicated to write WMI providers, and most of those who are there are read-only So if you want to, read stuff from Windows, you can use WMI. But if you want to write stuff with Windows, for instance, if you're looking up Active Directory stuff or something else, you should use another technology, maybe COM, maybe a .NET wrapped object, maybe LDAP. There's plenty of standards, plenty of protocols, plenty of stuff to use out there. But the main thing is, well, you need to learn a lot of different technologies to access all these different random APIs for manageability. And that is what PowerShell definitely says. Oh no, it's no good. We need to just focus on having this one shell, one super shell, and it can do everything. But of course it cannot do everything out of the box. Somebody will need to provide some modules, some commandlets that enables you to do everything here. And that's where these tasks come in, or commandlets, which are very high level. And that's why we are having names like new mailbox for Exchange Server. Very easy to understand and read. And basically the entire structure of these commandlets are a little verb and then a noun and a dash in between. So it's when I want to create a new mailbox for Exchange Server, I'm typing new dash mailbox. If I want to maybe list all the mailboxes in the Exchange Server, it would be get dash mailbox or list dash mailbox. I mean, it's very easy to understand what you're actually doing here when you're sitting in PowerShell. And then for AL, as Gert and Lars showed, then we have the .NET interoperability for R2 and of course for 7 and further. That enables you actually to use, if you want to use PowerShell from within AL, you can do it by using .NET interop, and that makes it also very powerful. Of course, you can interop everything. You can also interop COM and maybe WMI and what have we, but you can go directly to PowerShell to query stuff, maybe to update stuff, to browse into the AD and a lot of interesting things. That's also very neat. Going to show a little demo here. PowerShell. By the way, it's running Windows 7+1 here. I think you can probably do the math, but I think it's very nice. It works for NAV. Starting up a PowerShell shell, and as you can see, I can change directory. I can do dir. I can, it's pretty cool. Do Notepad. Well, it's just a normal shell. I can do everything, right? Calc. Yeah, 7+1. Yeah, here you go. But I can do so much more than that. I can, for instance, there's like directories. It lists the directories on the C drive. But if I look into some other commandlets that are built into PowerShell, a lot of them are built in. There's more than 200 or something. Then I can look for drives. I'm just tapping here, so it'll just go through all what I've been tapping, like you're used to with a shell. So if I say get PS, not snap in PS drive, it'll list, well, basically more drives than I actually have on my machine. I have 2 file system drives. Then I have environment. I have registry. That's interesting. So if I go in here, current user, I need to cd change directory. It's just a key current user. Here we go. Then I can do a directory in my registry directly. I can go to software, go to Microsoft, see if we have Dynamics. Yeah, we do. NAV7. Oh, there's some PowerShell stuff. I mean, okay, nothing here. But I mean, it's very, very easy to navigate around using PowerShell. Go back to my C drive. And as you noticed, maybe there was get PS drive here. there was also a directory called variables. So it means I can actually go to variable here and there, and I have a list of all the current variables, all the state in this shell, in this version of the shell I'm running right now, and that's also pretty cool. So if I create a new variable, variables in PowerShell has a little dollar sign in front. So I can type, for instance, $x15, and I can there. Now you can see in the button here, like there, that x is 15. C equals hello. Dollar, of course. And there, here we go. So that's kind of nice. I can also do other stuff. Again, there we go. Like get, there's a lot of stuff that has this little verb in front, like get, set, new, remove, start, stop, what have we. So if I just start to type get, there's a lot of functions here. I can see what processes are running. I'll just try my luck saying process. Yeah, these are the processes actually running here. Can get event log. Event log. Oh, it needs a log name. So that's because, well, we have all the different default logs, the Windows log, security, application, system. We have a lot of stuff. So if I type application, not very good. I will try again, get event log, and then I will type log name. Maybe I can tab it. Yes, I could. Log name application. Oh, I'm going to stop it. Just show the latest 10 entries in the application log. And you can have those. And basically, right now they're just default formatted. You can also format them using other commandlets, and you can combine those commandlets, and that's what this pipe symbol is doing. So right now we have this little pipe here, means that whatever comes out of this commandlet here is going to be passed into the next one. So it's not like a string. Now what you can see, the output was here's a bunch of strings, maybe at least it appears that way, but it's PowerShell and it's Windows aware, so it's objects. It's really, it's not just a table with a bunch of strings. It's actually an event log entry object that contains everything, all the properties that is there for an element or for an event log entry element are passed over to the whatever command that I'm going to use now. And there's some format table. Yeah, that's the default one. I can format list instead. Yes, totally different. But all these objects are being moved from one commandlet to another. It's also very productive in the way that I don't really need to. I mean, I can tab, but I don't really need to specify everything. If I don't really know exactly how to type, for instance, newest, I'll just try with a new 10. It'll work. Okay, maybe log name is too much. I will just type log 10. Yeah, it works so well. Maybe I can just type new, and it's very forgiving. Oh, there's a problem here. It says the parameter name L is ambiguous. So there was two arguments, one called log name and one called list, and it doesn't really know what to choose. So I at least need to specify an LO, and there we have it. So you don't really need to be able to spell everything or tab everything. I mean, once you just get to know it and play around with it, you're just getting into a lousy typer, and that's perfectly okay. I find that very convenient. Some other things we have here, like processes that I showed you before. Well, you can use while characters if you don't, for instance, want to see all the processes, just the one containing NAV. Oh, we have a NAV server here with handles and working set and CPU, average time, and what have we. We can also list some others, maybe all the ones with A in it. Yeah, that's process name. And what I'm doing here, well, I could just as well say that I want to list those with a process name or a name equals this. And that's because some of the commandlets have an indexed argument list, so it knows automatically what you would like to choose first. So you don't need to specify process name equals star a star. And same with the gets event log. If I just type application U10, it's just knowing that the first argument that's kind of going to be passed by this argument called log name. So it's actually doing a lot of stuff, trying to see what arguments you supply and see where they fit into in what function, in what argument, and everything is kind of being handled behind your back, and that makes it very productive. There's another thing. If I go to, for instance, these processes, well, I can take all these processes that has an A in the process name, and I can see if I can stop process. That was well. What would happen here? Well, I guess I'm not quite sure if I'm going to kill, for instance, this LAS and NAV server, and it's probably not a good idea. So that's why some of the very dangerous stuff has a what if built into it. I need to, there we go. What if? So what if is not really executing stuff, but it's just saying, oh, what would happen if you performed stop process on these 4 processes? Well, actually, I believe my computer would reboot or something. But it's very handy, and again very productive to have that possibility. Another thing, this box is I just installed Windows, of course, and PowerShell comes along with it, and then I installed NAV. And with NAV, if you take the demo installation, if you just install NAV server and client and SQL, the Express version, that's part of the demo installation, then of course SQL also have these commandlets, and they're also provided out of the box. You don't really need anything except that, well, if you install the product, you have them. So I can just type SQL PS for SQL PowerShell. I'll type enter and start to load the modules for SQL, and voila. Now I'm actually inside a SQL server. I can do CD, change the directory, I can do dir, I can do everything here. So this is, it's very powerful stuff actually. You can see what machines I have here. See if I have an instance. Let's, okay. I pressed tab. It's not really working that fast. Just excuse me. I will stop it and try again. SQL PowerShell. Okay, SQL and this guy. Oh. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good. See if I can stop it. Oh, it's really doing well. Okay. There we go. Thanks a lot. And that's also very good with PowerShell. There's a great community, and I mean, you were just supporting me here. It's perfect. I can go into. Let's see. Databases. Tables. Need to go into master first. A lot of red stuff complaining, and I can see I have this, for instance, one of our system tables in master. And it's really powerful. And of course, there's also a lot of commandlets for invoking stuff, like executing stuff inside SQL and managing SQL. I can basically do everything. Yeah, it's well, to a certain limit, of course. There's something you need the installer for. If I've already created the instance, then wouldn't be wise, if at all possible, just to rename the instance here. But you can do a lot of stuff. Okay, I'll exit this demo here, and I'm back to normal shell, and I'll continue. There is a little thing that I will also like to show you, as you show here in the script up here. If I'm getting processes, there we go. Then you can see all the processes I have. Okay, let's say I want to get the processes that has a working set larger than, for instance, 5 megabyte. Then I will take the output. The default output is always $_, and I will take the property named working set greater than 5 megabyte. Here we go. 6 megabyte. Yeah, I'm missing some light here. It's actually. Yes, thanks. And like to sort working set and format table. See what it does. Okay, so right now you can see the column working set here, that I'm only returning not everything, not for instance this guy, the system, but only the larger processes running. Sorting those and formatting them to a table. Well, what happens inside PowerShell when I do that? Well, basically we have this parser, and as I talked to you about before briefly, then this piping symbol is taking the output of the get process commandlet. It's going to be piped into the next function or next command, and well, it's not text, it's not something simple. It's actually the entire process object with all attributes and everything, and it's as if you were creating a .NET process object. It has a bunch of methods and properties. It's the same thing here in PowerShell. So I take it and I pipe the entire object into this where clause. And as you can see here, then the pipeline processor is saying, okay, I want to take the output here of first the entire input string and get process, and take the output down to the pipeline processor and stuff it into the next where commandlet. And everything between these brackets here, it's called a script block. And in a script block, you can basically do everything. So you can go to the AD, you can contact Exchange server, you can go to NAV database, you can, I don't know, call your father for help. It's not limited in any way. You can do everything. And then when this guy returns, well, now it has sorted everything, and it's kind of a like SQL lookalike syntax, so it's very easy to read also. But now it's taking this limited set of processes and passing to the next. As you can see here, goes down to the pipeline processor and piping to the next sort commandlet, which is sorting by working set, and then again to the next one. And as I said before and showed, it's really squeezing all the arguments. It's casting, it's boxing, it's doing a lot of stuff to see where all the arguments fits into who's ever receiving or is going to receive this object. How can it fit in? And it'll only throw an error or give these red messages, error messages or warnings if it doesn't really find a match. So it's really trying hard to see what you are trying to achieve or what you're trying to do, and see if it actually fits into these commandlets somehow. That's also what's make it very productive. Yeah. Then we have some very good ones, very simple commandlets that you need to learn. Now you've been seeing me typing around and playing with different methods, but it's very hard to get started. Of course, you can read a book or you can read everything on MSDN or whatever, but these three very simple commandlets for discovery are extremely good. And if you just know those, you will be able to play around. Little demo. Have it here. Get help. Well, okay, it's telling how get help is actually working. And if I type get help, or maybe I should, yeah, on one of the other commandlets like get process, well, then it's actually, I will just do like this so you can see it better. Well, then you can see we have some syntaxes where we have some arguments. One of them is taking a string and string array here, computer name, and it means, well, probably it'll be able to do something remotely. And then we have some aliases. Oh, that's new stuff, but also very nice because then you don't really need to type get process all your time. You can just type GPS or PS. And the same for the help one. Or get help, it's also just, help and PS. I'll basically return the same thing. There's a bunch of aliases for everything. You can type get alias and you can see them all. The other thing is that you can use these wildcards that you're used to in directory search and everything, that also for all the arguments. So if I type help, maybe not, I'll show one of the other ones, that's get command. And see everything that has to do with PS maybe, process. Oh, there's too many of them. Process. Okay, it'll list all the commandlets that is doing something about processes. And if you type, again, help here, for the stop process, yeah, okay. Then you can see there's also some aliases. There's more to it here. If you type, for instance, online, then you can go directly to the online help, or it'll take you directly to the online help. And you can see stop process, you can see where it all fits, and you can probably see examples. If I stop that and go back, then there's some other arguments for get help. One of them is full, and will be a bit more descriptive in what it can do. You can see which arguments are required, which are not, and sometimes there's also examples. Oh, we don't have any of those for the stop process, except if you go online. But these are very good to know if I switch back here. Get member, the one I didn't show here. it's about, well, if we have this .NET object, like I'm creating a date time, okay, date time object, and I will take it from a string called 0211. Okay, it'll say it's November 2nd, 2011. If I just pass in get member, it'll show all the properties that are available, all the methods and properties that are available on this object. And that is, well, it's basically just a .NET date time object. So you have everything you can do on a .NET date time object. So you can say add days +1. You can basically do everything, and that's also very convenient. This is my my son's birthday. He's 4 years old, and he's all the time he's just nagging me. Oh, when do I have birthday? When do I have birthday? How many days are left? Well, if I have PowerShell, I can just say like get date here, and I can say this is his birthday minus. Very simple. And I can put it in a function. And script block and call it Laurits. So now we have a new function in PowerShell called Laurits. That's his name. I can fast tab it and say, okay, there's 33 days. Can even give it to him in milliseconds here. Would be nice, but then he will start to cry, I guess. Do I really have to sleep that many? I don't know. Yeah.
Is your son using this himself?
No, not yet. He should. When he reaches 5, then okay. Yeah. And now to the NAV commandlets, the one we have produced for NAV 7. Well, you can manage server instances. And for that we have these get, set, new, that's the verb in front, and then NAV server instance. And you can also manage the configuration part of the server instances. Also get, set, new, that's kind of the pattern in NAV. We have get, set, new, remove. That's very default or very easy just to, learn these simple verbs, and then all our nouns has nav server in front. So you can always just get help nav server or get command nav server. Then you will have everything listed. And these are also used in the demo we saw before for this management pages in AL. So you can actually use those to list the servers, see the state of the servers, change the state of the servers, and restart and what have we. And it's very simple. It's basically just a one-liner in NAV. Doesn't require running server. No, they're used to configure a server so you can run it. So what does it do? I'll just take one of them, the new nav server instance. What does it do? Well, it creates a new Windows service. And it also applies a proper configuration. So this new Windows service can actually run. All the dependent services, all the recovery information that is on the default service also applied to the new one. And the default is the one you have by the installer. So when you install the product, you have a default service. And everything that you do when you configure or reconfigure the default service is applied to whatever new instances you do. So you get clones of the original installed ones. And you can create as many as you like. So that's very easy just to go ahead and spin off new server instances. Then it configures ACL permissions for the service account. That's file plus URI. File is for the, of course, file I/O, file operations, what have we. And URI is for web services and for OData. You need to allow people to use that port so we can accept the incoming HTTP or HTTPS calls. That's why we need to configure that one. Well, then we are also configuring firewall exceptions for the ports you specify, and we are reconfiguring the custom settings.config. So all that, you can do it. There's some, I believe there's some VB scripts and blocks somewhere, and there's some guides, and there's there's a lot of stuff you need to do to create a new server instance if you're not using the installer. But here it's just a one-liner, like everything else. Just call this guy and you have a new server instance. Well, and we have something here for running NAV server installations. It's actually using a server. It's remoting into PowerShell, executing on the server, and then it's using an existing server. So you must have a server running. For instance, if you want to upload license files, we have import, export, the two other verbs we're using besides get, set, new, and remove. So you can import a license or you can export a license. Import is basically just taking the license file and put it into either master or the local database as now. And export is not exporting the license. It's just exporting the license info, just to keep it a little protected. But you will see the text of the license files. You can see what kind of permissions you have basically in clear text. And then we have ability to manage client connections. Well, we can retrieve all the client connections, and we can set is basically stopping the client connections. Right now in this version, it's only working for RTC. But of course, with all our start sessions, background sessions, NAS, what have we, SharePoint sessions, everything should be something we can configure and manage. We should be able to stop them to abort processes running, and also the background one that are not really responding, stuff like that, and it'll be there. There will also, like we have the start session, you can also do it in AL. We have a stop session keyword or function as well. That's basically what we're utilizing here. Okay, then we have something for users and permissions. Yeah, again, these four verbs, NAV users, roles, will be changed to permission sets. Server permissions, server user role. More to come. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just evolving slowly, and it's not only us who are doing it. Okay. Now we'll just show a little demo, and then we can see what you guys can do. Now we are going to demo the NAV server commandlets right here. Well, this is the list of commandlets currently available, and if you want to have them listed, well, it says in yellow. You can just type get command nav server. Bingo, here they are. And I can basically do everything. I can import a license file. I can stop a server. I'll try to start a client here. And we'll see if I call get nav. I'll tap client connections, server instance name, Dynamics NAV server. Here we go. Was not found. Yeah. Here we go. Then it'll list connections, but I don't really see much, and that's because, as we saw in the previous presentation, well, we are returning XML documents. Most of what we are dealing with is formatted in XML. So I need to format it using some of the other commandlets called format custom. Oh, how it works. Very good. Sorry for that. Format custom. Let's look closely. Can maybe turn on my light here. And then you can see, okay, we have a role-tailored client connection type, and the user is, well, it's basically me, and we have a connection ID, and that's the one running here. And of course, I can use the other, set nav service server client connections for this guy, and Then I can go out in the end and specify another argument. Session, maybe? Oh, slow. Okay. I will try to get help here. Set NAV server client connection. Wasn't that the one? No. Get command. That must be enough. Here we go. So it's remove NAV server client connection, of course. There we go. And then connection, yes, connection ID. Oh, now I need to get it first. Otherwise I don't really know what to remove. See if I can just copy that guy here. It's going to be easier with an IDE. Here we go. See what happens. Well, it starts to blink here and say, oh, you lost the connection to the server. It'll shut down. So I just force the client to shut down. And that's kind of what we can do. We can also, I mean, very easily create new NAV server instances. I will give it a name. That's mandatory. User. Okay, I need a service port for doing management stuff. I can say that's port number 1000, server port for RTC connections, 1001, for web services, for OData, 3. And now it starts to create. Now it's actually created. So if I list those using the get nav server instance, then I will get something. Again, it's not really nicely formatted because it's in XML, so I need to either do format custom so I can see the entire XML document. You can see now I actually have state a running server, that's the default one, and a one named Mibuzo here. And that's stopped. But it has been configured and everything should be runnable if I just start it. And I will show you how also to navigate into this, because it's sometimes a little bit difficult to you cannot always, if there's a lot of NAV server instances, then this format custom will start to shrink and cut, and you can't see everything. But again, it's XML and it's PowerShell, so it should be very easy. So if I look at the instances over here, that's kind of a property. So what happens if I just do like this? Oh, I need to pass it into XML variable. Then I have my XML variable. Instances. Oh, I can see there's something called server instance. I can tab. Here we go. Then we have the list. I'm just navigating XML document. Again, very productive. Yes, I will go back to the slide here. There we go. Okay, more to come. Yeah, well, excuse me. You shouldn't necessarily wait for us to deliver new functionality, because you can just as well create commandlets yourself. It's very flexible, and if you can maybe just take the ones we have or the ones in PowerShell, then you have the option of combining more commandlets into maybe a composite commandlet that contains a lot of stuff, is invoking this guy and that guy and this guy. You can also extend the existing functions by calling or using a concept called proxy functions. So, and by doing that, you can actually say, okay, I have this ability to create new users, but I'm not satisfied. It should also be able to actually create a domain user, or it should be able to create an Exchange server user or something at the same time with the same command. Then you can extend the functionality in what we deliver. And then we have a little, chicken and egg problem here. That's because, when we have manageability, it's very good because, it's solving problems. If you're doing stuff in an automated fashion, then it's kind of being easier for everybody to administer. But for in the low end market, maybe you just need some simplicity, and if you have a little problem, you'll just snap it away or something. It's not really a big problem. It's like, in Denmark, for the time being, we have a lot of mosquitoes, and if there's just one mosquito, I'll just slam it and it's gone, right? It's a small problem. But if we're going to virtualization, if we're going to look at the cloud for Azure and stuff like that, then it's like being in a jungle, gazillions of mosquitoes. This tiny little problem is just turning into a massacre of problems, and that's the same here with manageability. If you have small things, you can go Notepad, change the configuration file, and everything is actually cool. But we have the product. It's already there. What we provide as manageability is an add-in that makes the manageable unit having some customer value by having this solution. It's the same for DevBase. The options are there. It's in 7. You just need to go out and create the solution that gives customer value, right? But it's nice to have. But again, you don't want to do it unless there's a market. Then you don't get paid. So it's who's coming first, who's doing what. We have our little, maybe 10%, our 20% bet of what you definitely need, and then you have to go invent whatever is needed in your situation for combining with or integrating with whatever have we. So, but PowerShell is good for that, and the reason, it's very predictable, so it doesn't really take time for you to go in and manage your system, and it's also coming with new features all the time. Like in the first version, you could do some shell, you maybe had the little UI, but now with version 2 you just get remoting for free, and in version 3 you get some other stuff for free and a bunch of new commandlets, and it's just evolving all the time. I think that's pretty cool, and that's also solving this problem, the n times n problem, where we have different types, different solution, different implementations that needs to go to the disk, to SQL, to NAV, to devices, to whatever .NET components you have, and everybody needs to go and get information from all these different sources. But with PowerShell and Windows remoting, you can basically just learn PowerShell. You can go to PowerShell, and there's probably somebody else who's creating commandlets for SQL, for NAV, for the disk devices, for the AD, and of course, if it's your elements, you'll need to do some sort of commandlet for that component. Yeah, and then another demo here about communities is everything, and that's because there's a great community around PowerShell. If I start up my Internet Explorer, there's I have a lot of resource script center here. I have a lot of infos in the resources, but if I start script center, cannot display the page. Okay. Here we go. Script center should take me to TechNet, and this is basically a repository for doing script stuff. So if I want to say, okay, I'm using your commandlets to create a new NAV user, I'm assigning whatever roles, permissions, everything to this new user, but I also want to create the person as a local user. So I don't really know how to do that. I know it's probably possible, it's PowerShell and all that, but I need to go into the script repository for user accounts and see, okay, there's plenty here, and this is factory directory. No, I don't want to do that. I want to go into local account management. I don't have an active directory here on my laptop, so I'll just go here. And you can see there's something in vb.net, and there's also something here in PowerShell. And it's able to create and remove and set and test if his admin. So if I just download that piece of script, you can check it out. It's not huge because there's built-in support for a lot of stuff here. So it's a lot of comments, but this is basically what it takes. There's some plumbing up here. What it takes to create a new local user. It's down here. So if I can incorporate that into one of the existing scripts, it'll be great. And I will show you a graphical UI here. Because I have the file downloaded already. It's called local account management. Here it is. Okay, if I just run it, boom. Now it's just like imported, executed. I have all these new functions, so I can. Oh, I need to type down here. This is my shell. This is a PowerShell integrated scripting environment. It makes it easier for you to create functions and to execute stuff. And here I have what you normally see in the shell at the bottom here, so I can start to type new. Oh, local user. Here we go. And it will probably take, I don't know what it takes, but it'll take some names. It'll take a username and a password and a computer name. That's probably local. So if I do like this and type username, test, and password like that. Okay, it's probably created. I'll just check in the local user group. Yeah, it's there, created by PowerShell. Then I can combine it. If I go back, then I'll be able to create a new user. I will just open. I've already combined this new NAV user script. It's very simple. Create a new function that have these input arguments. And one of them is server instance name that is used, the one we type Microsoft Dynamics NAV server, that's the default one. Now we have created a new instance called Mibuso, so I can create a new user for that setup. Then it takes a username and a password. And what I do inside this commandlet is basically, well, I'm creating a new local user. I'm setting it, just for convenience, to be an administrator. I'm also calling the NAV server user commandlet that is taking the username account, and it can actually resolve the SID and store that in the database. And then I'm also assigning a role, and that role is also for convenience going to be super. That's the only role I have here in my system. But I will have to make sure that the server is actually running, so I will add ps nav in. I will just add the nav stuff. It's not here, it's just the normal Windows shell. So now it's loaded, and I will be able to set server instance here. Buzo and start, because it was stopped before. And I can also type verbose just to give a little information about what's actually going on here. Oh, it is. HTTP is already running, but now it's actually processing the different pipelines and saying that there's a dependent service. It is already running, probably used by the default instance, and then it's attempting to start it, and it's running. So now I can assume that the status of the Mibuso service is running. So okay, I have loaded the functions for managed local users. I've loaded the NAV commandlets, and I have created this new function. So I should be able to just create, what is it, NAV, new NAV user. Oh. Oh, maybe I didn't run it. I should just run it to make sure it's in the system. Here we are. Okay. And it takes a server instance. Mebuso. It also takes a username, test2, and password. Yeah, let's do the same. Capital P. See what it does. Well, it's not complaining or anything, so I guess it's already done. So I will go in and check if the user is here. In the classic, in the C side. What is it? View. First of all, no, it's running on the same database, so everything should be fine. What is it here? Security, Windows logins. We have test2 has been created, and if I look at roles, well, we have the role super assigned to it. So it's in there, and it's also, just for convenience, I will just check, refresh. Yes, it's also here. So I should be able to log on with that user directly. First of all, I just need to make sure that I can log on in the first place, because I have never tried that new server instance before. So it's running, but I would like to select server, because I'm no longer running through localhost and this guy here. I think my port number was 2001 and my instance was Mebuso. Yes, here we are. So I'm connected to the right server instance. There. And we also have these pages for users in 7. So if I just go in here, users, user setup. Yeah. Windows users, it was. So here we have actually the users, and I can look at actions, permissions. You can see the permissions for that guy. That's super. So it's kind of the same system forms we have in C-side. They're also available here now. And of course I can modify and what have we. I will maybe just show how to create a new one. User setup. New. Okay. Drop down. First new. Oh. Where is it? Here, new. There we go. And then the drop down. Then there's a .NET in top object that I need to allow to run. Okay, it's not installed probably. But then you have the normal user picker, so you can go in and you can pick objects from the Active Directory or local, and you can get it into NAV. But that's not what I was going to test. I was actually going to test if this new user could run. So I need to go back to the shell here, and I will need to. Oh. Go to program files, where the client is. Here we are. Run as. I don't know, run as it takes a username, right? Test2, and then it takes a program. That's my executable. Here we go. So it'll try to start up being this user test2, and I will deliver the password. pass_word, and it'll start to, or attempt to start the client, and bingo, it's up and running. So that kind of administration could easily be extended to what have we. Again, like Michael said, we're delivering 10%, 20%, and the rest is up to you. Oh, no Outlook account for test2. Okay, back to presentation. Yeah, we also have a management UI, and that's not built-in pages. It's basically a MMC snap-in. So if I go back here to the list of installed products, then I have the Microsoft Dynamics NAV administration, and that's done as a snap-in in Management Console. So you can see everything here. It's remarkably looking like the page version you saw previously, but it's basically just a snap into Management Console, and it works like you would expect. You can start, stop these services. It's not very fancy, but you can do it, and you can scroll down, and you can go into the default instance. You can see all the properties here from the custom settings. They're grouped by client services. These are the general ones: web services, OData, and NAS, the new NAS. Give it some startup arguments and enable it, disable it, what have we, what company it should run, and everything is just running as one service. Maybe you're used to that we had a service for web service and another service for the server. Now it's just one service running everything. So it's a matter of enabling or disabling the different endpoints, the different internal servers. And same here for the Mibuse one. I can also connect, because it's PowerShell. Right now it's just connecting to the local box, but I can connect to another computer. And we have one here. It's called like that. It's just the IP address. It's basically the same thing, but I mean, I don't really have that many remote machines I can connect to, but it's working exactly the same, because everything is executing using remote PowerShell on the other box. So it's pretty neat. I can demonstrate it easily here in PowerShell. If I start a new session, that's what we are doing in the Management Console. Then I can say, okay, I want to get a PS session. Yeah. And the computer name should be like this. And I also want a local host. I don't really know how many names I have. Okay, then it's getting those, but there were no sessions available, so I will have to create PS sessions. Okay, now it's creating 2 sessions. So I have 2 sessions on another machine. It's actually looping back to this machine, but now I have 2 sessions that are alive, and I can play around with those. I can also store them in a session variable here. There we go, and I can type session. Now I have 2 new numbers. Now I have 4 sessions to that machine. I can do a lot of stuff like get process. Maybe it takes a computer name. Maybe it takes a session name. Oh, it doesn't. Okay, then I have to do this. There's a general thing. You can either enter PS session it. Oh, then I need to have the variable. The first argument in this list. I'm going to enter the session 0 of this list I have of arguments that contain sessions. And now I'm actually executing on this other machine named localhost. I can exit. I can go to the other session. I can do stuff. It's the 127. I can exit that section. The session is still alive, and I can also just execute a script block. EON and give it the entire session arguments, so it's executing on all these sessions in the session list. Come on. Script lock. Get process up. Oh, it's enter in. That's why. Invoke session. It's just called invoke session. Come on. Invoke command. Sorry. F3. Let me try to get the processes, and you can see, well, basically it's returning all the processes both on localhost and from the other 127 IP and in random order, and you can basically just say go execute on all these machines, gather everything together and show in HTML document or in a grid or something. I can also do that. It's I will just pipe it to out grid here. So now I get the list inside a grid. There's also a commanded for that. There's also a commanded for something like HTML. I think it's convert to HTML, and then I can pipe that out to a document. Proc HTML. Let's take proc it, and then I'm loading the proc HTML. But it's okay. Maybe the formatting is not so nice as one could wish, but it's there, and depends on what you're doing. Actually, you can also create a style sheet, but it's very flexible in general. Okay, I will see. Here's my presentation. Yeah. Then we have a lot of, or I have a lot of resources here. Well, basically the PowerShell community, because it's growing so rapidly, contains of a lot of information, a lot of blogs, a lot of like script center, a lot of very small scripts, larger scripts to accomplish all kinds of things. So it's very nice to go in here, and people are very responsive. So if you have a little post something, you probably get a reply within 10 minutes or something. It's very active, and that's why I also mentioned Mibuso here. I mean, it's obvious that when we ship this and we have like the NAV management forum, it's obvious that we are going to have a good negotiation about what should we do, and I will hopefully start to produce some blogs and post information there and be keen on what you are actually using PowerShell for, because I think it's fun and it's very cool, and I hope also that you will notice my mail address up there. So if you have some ideas about what we should implement, how our management story should continue, you should definitely just send me a mail. See what we can do, because I think it's really great, and the more we can achieve, the better. And then there's some, well, probably a bunch of books, but I have been reading and browsing these two books here, and they're extremely good. They're produced by two people from Microsoft, from the PowerShell team, and they're really into the deep details. So once you start to play around with it, you want to learn more, you should definitely look into these books as well. Yeah, that's basically it. So if you have any questions, yeah, do we have a microphone? Or that's good. Yeah.
Okay. I have a question about creating a new Navision user with this PowerShell. Suppose you have a database and the service is running on the local system account. And you as a user don't have access yet to that database. Then is it possible to create yourself as a user using PowerShell because the service is running, or not because you don't have access?
No, I mean, we're just complying with all the other access rules in Windows. So if somebody will need to create a new user in the database, then this guy will need to be a database administrator. So whenever you're invoking something in PowerShell, well, we're taking the credentials from this person and passing them on to NAV, to the server. And if we're not going to be validated there, then you won't be able to create the user. And if it's the first user, I mean, right now in NAV, if you don't have any users, then you, of course, will be able to create the first user. And that's the same logic here in PowerShell. We're just utilizing whatever we have in NAV. So the first user should be, I mean, the administrator, and should be a super. And then you are good to go. Otherwise, it'll be blocked, but you can always, I mean, go in and drop that user again and start over, or what have we. It's kind of the same security model.
And does that also apply to applications? For instance, you can stop and start services using PowerShell. And suppose you as a user, you don't have access to the normal services management console. Will you still be able to use PowerShell to start and stop services, or not? Will he check that you can't run services.msc?
It's only for local admins. When you want to access something remotely on PowerShell, it's for local admins. So nobody else. Yeah, welcome.
When you were creating a new server instance, you had to input a lot of port numbers. Is there also an option to just take the default ones, because there's port sharing usually for most of these ports?
Yeah,
if not all.
In 6.0 R2 we had port sharing, but for 7.0 we disabled it. But we didn't disable it in the way that it's not possible. If you have dependent services, and one of them is the TCP port sharing service, then we allow port sharing. It's no big problem, but out of the box when you install the product, the only dependent service we have is HTTP. So this kind of pattern we had in 6.0, well, port sharing was enabled if the port sharing service was running when you started. The service was kind of a mystery to many people and probably not really known. I don't know if you know that pattern. Sometimes you saw port sharing worked, sometimes it didn't. And why is that? Well, actually the pattern is if port sharing is running when you start an NAV server, then port sharing is enabled for that server. So that was completely, I mean, non-understandable. So we decided only to have it enabled if it's a dependent service. So if you change the dependencies in your services, you can't do that using our PowerShell, but you can do this using normal Windows PowerShell or the SC service executable. Then you can say, oh, I want to be dependent on TCP port sharing. And then it's there, then it works.
So if we want to use port sharing, then we'll have to add the service as a dependency to the NAV server service.
Yes, for 7. That's correct.
Okay.
But there's no default port numbers for the other reason, because we don't really want people to use port sharing. It's slowing down the system a little bit. So. Yeah. No. Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Port sharing. That's a service that enables the TCP port for managed servers to be shared, especially for WCF servers like we're utilizing. So if you have two servers listening on the same port, for instance the default port on NAV, then you will be able to have them same listening on the same port. Means you only need to expose that port number to the firewall. So everybody that comes in can be directed to either this server or that server, and they don't really have anything in common except that it's easier to configure, and you don't need to open too much on the Windows box. It's just like having multiple ports, but except you're just sharing ports, and by sharing it, you're sharing the resources, the listeners, the underlying in Windows. We have some I/O threads that is listening to this ports and delegating the incoming request out to the different servers, and they're not infinite resources of these I/O threads, so it slows the system down a little bit. So it's not totally advisable to use it, but for easy setup, easy configuration, then might be a good idea. I don't know. You must measure it yourself if you're running into problems. Yeah.
When you showed or scratched importing license into NAV, is it imported into the SQL server and inside the database? Because it's normally a question of granule if you're allowed to import a license into a database.
Yes, it's using the standard rules. So if you don't have the granule to import it, then you are not allowed to import it. But it's stamped into the new license file. So if you have a new license file that has a granule, then of course you will be able to import that one, even though the old one didn't. Can you understand that?
Does it mean you can't change the SQL license or the license stored in the SQL server for all databases couldn't be changed using this commandlet?
Yes. I'll just show you. Import. Oh. Snap in. NAV. NAV server license here. Okay. What does it do? Okay, I need to type examples, help. Then I get some examples about how it's working. So we have up here. There's a little description. Well, basically we import a license file to the instance named my instance, and the license data comes from this file, and it goes into the place where the original license were. So if it's a per database license, it's overwriting that. If it's in master, it's overwrite that one. And the other examples here are, well, you can also put it into a NAV database, or you can put it into master. So you can overwrite whatever default behavior you had, and it'll just work. I mean, if I just copy the sample here. Then I will take a license file. I will import it into Simibuzo. And I will find the correct. There we go. So now I'm importing a license file and overwriting the existing one. If I want to do the same for a specific database, then I type, I don't type NAV, I type database, NAV. Then it's actually imported into the NAV database. If I type master, then it's imported into master. But as it says in the warning, well, it requires a restart of the service tier to actually function. If I have another, I believe I have the default license lying around here. The ones that comes with the installer. Yeah, it's also okay. You can import that one. But if I don't have permissions to import it, if I'm not like a super user or don't really have the permission set to import that license, and it's checking me, then I won't be able to. But you can import everything, and you can export also the license information. Don't need data for that. Like there. That's the default one. If I import one of the other ones again, This guy. I can export that one, and that's maybe I should restart it. Yeah. Is that the good one? Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, you're right. No, you cannot get that. Okay.
Another question here. You've two different types of PowerShell windows open. Could you outline the main difference between them and which program they are delivered with and what do you use them for? The other one, write down on your task.
Which one?
The one on the right side.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yes, that one.
That one here?
Yeah. Okay,
this one is just to, basically to have a better editor. It's a great editor to be using. Basically, you should, always use this one because it has good help. It has great editor capabilities. It has this color encoding, so you can see what you're typing. It has the output window that you can use to scroll. And here's, on a bigger screen, not forced to be presentable, but then you have a very good overview. So I would say, always use this one.
This is also shipped with Windows?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Good.
It's part of it. What? I wasn't really.
Well, I will get
Yeah.
Can it be embedded from the CAL code? For example, using the .NET interop?
This shell, or just PowerShell in general?
I saw it from the dot prompt, the old DOS prompt.
Yeah.
And here in this environment, I like to use it out of my Navision, controlled by myself.
Of course.
Just like I do with the .NET interop.
Yeah, sure.
Is it possible? Can you show that?
Not the shell as such, but the runtime, like we saw previously. I mean, it's just a standard .NET object. I will just show you. We have, I believe I have it here. This is the code that Gert and Lars showed. Well, this is our management DLL that is executing commandlet for convenience. But if I go in here and I just type run space dot net. Okay, yeah, but I can go and I can find it's called management DLL, and it has a lot of stuff, but some of them are using generics a lot, so it's somewhat pretty difficult to actually code in AL. I mean, you need to jump some fences and to make it work, but it's possible.
Can you get the messages out of it?
Yes, it's streamed. All the messages are returned in streams. We have an error message stream, a warning stream, a verbose stream, different streams. You just take these streams and stream into a big text or what have we, and you can show the messages. Yeah, so that's also possible. Yeah. What? Yeah, that's right. I can show that. It's here.
Yeah.
I think we are out of time, but
one more question. Using the commandlet to create a new instance, can you also give all the parameters to the things you can find in the config file? For example, like the database instance and the port on which it's listening. And
yes, but not in one go. We need to. If I go in here, then we have. I'll just show you. We have the new NAV server instance here. So first you need to configure it, create it, and register everything, and then you need to call the new or set NAV server settings. Set NAV server settings will set one settings at a time, where new NAV server settings will take an entire well-formatted XML document, config settings.config, and push it to the server.
So what you're saying is you have an XML file prepared, and then you can import it? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.